Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm going to do an exercise about representing simple games. This is the following exercise is as follows. And now is based on the Nixon Christmas bombing. Now. From the reading, we can tell that after an initial agreement to end U.S. intervention in the Vietnam War, disagreement over the exact nature of the state settlement between the United States and North Vietnam emerged. From the point of view of the Nixon administration, the North Vietnamese government was trying to extract additional concessions by holding up the signing of the accord. Now, to translate all this information, we this exercise into a matrix. We need to understand this is a simplification, and we will find basically two states. Okay, so the states will be that Vietnam is bluffing and that Vietnam is not bluffing. Okay, so and in addition we have two available actions which are for the Nixon administrations, which are to bomb or do not bomb. Okay, and those this crossing of actions and states will give us consequences. Okay, so we will have different consequences. In this particular case, we will have, as you can tell from the reading, you have consequence 2, consequence 1 here, and consequence 3. Okay, so if we show this in a matrix to represent the game, what we have are two states, which are S1 bluffing, S2 not bluffing, and actions A1 bomb, A2 not bomb, and consequences, and in the elements of the matrix will be the consequences or outcomes. And you can tell from the exercise that consequence 2 appears when the state and the action together create the outcome of consequence that the administration select A2. We assume that it will grant additional consequences and receive settlement. So first action if Nixon administration chooses A1, the outcome will depend upon that's if we choose action 1. Okay, so if we choose action 1, we assume that the original agreement will be reaffirmed. So this is the option C1, again agreement. Now, if a simple misunderstanding had occurred, however, we assume that the bombing will provoke the North Vietnamese to break off the talks and resume the ground war. We assume for simplicity that the renewed ground war will not involve U.S. ground troops. So this will be consequence 2. So consequence 2 appears when we bomb, when the state is not bluffing, but we bomb. Okay? And what about consequence 2? So obviously there were more additional available than just these two, but if I call the first action the states and the create, so the states and actions together create the outcome of consequences. If the Nixon administration selects 2, we assume that it will grant additional consequences and a reviews settlement will be reached regardless of whether or not the Vietnamese, so regardless of whether or not the North Vietnamese were bluffing, we have that additional consequences. So regardless of what we have here, S1 or S2, we have additional consequences, and that's how we define it here. Right here are the consequences. Now, the exercise asks us to calculate the expected utility, the expected utilities. Now, the expected utilities using the data they just give us about the consequences, and the consequences are that have a utility for C1 equal to 1, utility of C2 is equal to 0.3, and the utility for C3 is equal to 0. Now, with this and the probability of the states, which are probability of the state 0.7 and probability of 0.3, we can compute the expected utility of the action 1, which will be the probability of the state 1 times the utility of, if we are in action 1, we need to compute this utility. Okay, C1. Okay, we have to compute. We have to compute utility 1. Here, utility C1 plus probability for S2 times the utility for C3, which is right here. Okay? Now, what about the expected utility for A2? Well, just as above, here we have C2 plus probability of S2 times the utility of C2, because action 2 gives the consequences, those two consequences. Now, if we compute this, we get probability 1 0.7 times 1 plus 0.3 times utility 3, which is 0. So this is 0.7. what about the utility for the expected utility for action 2? So again, 0.7 times utility 2 is 0.3 is 0.3 plus 0.3 times 0.3, and we get that this is 0.3. Okay, so since utility 1, so the expected utility for action 1 is greater than, so since the expected utility for action 1 is greater than the expected utility for action 2, Nixon administration prefers action 1, okay, to action 2. So this is the exercise for today.